Chapter 295 to 297. Anko and Kakashi stood opposite each other in the clearing. Kakashi lazily hunched over in apathy, but not daring to pull out his orange book while facing someone like Anko, while Anko was grinning like an excited kid who was about to kick butts. Despite his bored outlook, Anko could clearly see in his soul-uncovered eye that Kakashi was angry. That was good. She wanted him angry. It wasn't any sort of grand strategy from her side. Anko was not stupid enough to believe she could make someone of Kakashi's caliber mad enough it would affect his fighting ability. The guy was in ANBU, and he certainly learned how to keep his emotions at bay during a fight. No. Anko wanted him angry because he made her wait. He deserved to be angry. You know, I liked you better when you looked at me with these dead eyes. Angry like a squirrel glare doesn't suit you, doggy-kun, not with that pirate outlook. Anko chirped. Ha ha ha. Very funny, Anko-chan. Kakashi I smiled. What a coincidence. I liked you more when you were a slut, too. All this pretending that you are an upstanding person doesn't suit you. Despite the two just exchanging some casual banter, the atmosphere around them became tense and stifling, causing the three genins that observed them to feel uncomfortable. The two ninjas glared at each other from behind their pleasant facades, as if waiting for something to happen. Suddenly, a gentle breeze rustled the leaves in the crowns of the trees around the clearing, and the two ninjas abruptly disappeared. All the indication the three genins got that the fight started was a barely noticeable blur before Kakashi and Anko clashed in the middle of the clearing, their kunais crossed, trying to overpower each other while their arms trembled from exertion. Looking each other straight in the eye, Anko and Kakashi snarled before their kunais separated with a loud clang reverberating through the clearing. Both jumped back, creating a distance between each other while not letting the other out of their line of sight. Ma! Nothing impressive so far, Kakashi cheerfully taunted, causing Anko to pleasantly smile. That's what she said? Poor you. She licked her lips and abruptly threw a shuriken at the unsuspecting Kakashi, who was about to retort, causing him to shut his mouth and lean back, letting the shuriken harmlessly pass by his body, only to burst into smoke when it was close to his body, revealing a coiled, venomous snake springing headfirst towards him. Much to Kakashi's horror, the snake was aimed at his crotch. It was relatively easy for Kakashi to sidestep the snake, but that meant a war. Kakashi ran at Anko with his full speed, engaging her in a taijutsu bout mixed with some kunai jutsu here and there. Anko used her flexibility to negate, deflect, and evade most blows, occasionally using moves from her snake style to mitigate the force behind her opponent's attacks by taking the hit earlier than intended while returning one of hers at full power in return. It was obvious her taijutsu was not her main means of offense. Kakashi's style was more dependent on speed and fast, but effective hits into weak spots. Unfortunately for him, Anko was his worst enemy in that regard, as she was far too flexible for him to hit his intended targets. The two danced around the clearing, exchanging hits, swipes, and slashes more often than not, missing the other by a small margin. Kakashi suddenly spotted a twitch of Anko's lips as his back hit a tree, getting a bad premonition. He was a guy who trusted his instincts, and in this case, it saved him when Anko abruptly changed her style, and instead of her usual flexible and fast jab, she tightened her fist and sent a strong, solid punch at Kakashi's chest. Normally, Kakashi would face it head-on. He sparred with Might Guy, so solid and strong punches were something he learned to counter quite easily. But his instincts forced him to dodge roll to the left, pushing himself up from the ground and back onto his feet. He was really glad he didn't take the hit head-on when Anko's fist impacted the tree, bisecting its trunk with sheer brute force as if it was a child's play, causing the eyes of Kakashi alongside the three watching genins to widen in bewilderment and fear. The three genins quickly came to their first decision as a team: to not piss Anko off. They were trained by her for years, but this was the first time they saw her use this super strength technique. Honestly, it made them wonder what else she could do they were not aware of. As for Kakashi, "She knows Tsunade's technique," Kakashi mentally exclaimed, not liking where this fight was going. "Okay, maybe letting her wait might have been a bit of an oversight on my part." He thought and gulped as Anko turned to him with an eye smile of her own. "I will teach you. Letting a lady wait." Kakashi He really wanted to retort that there was no lady present here, but his suicidal days were already long over. Since he found the joy of Icha, he no longer desired to join his friends on the other side. Not yet, at least. And nobody can claim Kakashi didn't know when to keep his thoughts to himself. Anko dashed at Kakashi, using a completely different set of movements than previously. Her snake style was nimble and flexible, its movements adjusted for quickness and readiness to evade. Anko's current moves, however, felt heavier, less focused on speed. That said, while her current style indeed wasn't focused on quickness, Anko herself was very fast. Kakashi had only a split second before she was in front of him, already swinging her fist in the direction of his face. Kakashi leaned back, doing a bridge under Anko's swing before he propelled himself into a handstand and pushed his body away from the murder-happy woman capable of crushing a mountain with her fist. He didn't sign up for this shit. Anko didn't let Kakashi get away easily, though. As he landed on his feet, she was already closing the distance between them. Kakashi barely managed to redirect her punch by leaning his body to the left while hitting her elbow, evading his demise by an inch. Seeing his chance, he grabbed Anko's outstretched arm and shoulder threw her away from himself. The second he let go of her, Kakashi's hands started quickly forming hand seals. Anko was in midair when she heard Kakashi's voice. "Fire release, great fireball technique." And a moment later, she could feel the heat around her rising. Twisting her body in a way that would get her closer to the ground, Anko sent a sharp kick to the ground under herself, causing it to rise and cover her body, shielding her from the flying ball of fire. That also allowed her to regain her balance and land on her feet. Both ninjas momentarily stopped, sizing up the other while taking a small breather. Kakashi was good, Anko had to admit. Rusty, but good. His instincts were top-notch, and he clearly had enough experience to carry him through the tight spots. Anko was unpredictable, Kakashi inwardly sighed. Unpredictable was bad, hard to deal with. He hated unpredictable. As he looked at the woman, he had to admit, she made him respect her during this fight. It would be foolish not to respect her, considering she could make him into a pancake with a punch. That said, the woman was utterly irritating. He still had to teach her a lesson, too. Yes, there was no other way. Kakashi decided, and pulled his headband up, revealing his Sharingan. Up for ninja lesson number 2? He smiled at Anko, who snorted but readied herself. Author. Note. Okay, so, as many of you probably noticed, this arc will not focus on Rei and his girls. I want to portray the situation in Konoha and Team 7 because of the upcoming Chunin exam, which I plan to make into a kinda important milestone. I am sorry if some of you don't like that, but I must say, I had fun writing it, and it was refreshing just switching away from Rei and his girls for a bit since I was finding it harder and harder to find something to write about. One of you asked me, I read through the comments on the last 10 or so chapters today, if I am taking a break from the plot around MC's group. And my answer is yes. I need this break, D. I hope you will enjoy the arc as there will be much more action and combat involved. I honestly found out how unusual and dissatisfying it could feel for some readers because I am not involving the actual MC when I was halfway done with this arc, and by that time, I decided to just roll with it and properly finish it rather than rushing it. Kakashi and Anko initiated their second round by dashing toward each other, and Sasuke, who already had his matured 3-tomo Sharingan opened, since Kakashi threw Great Fireball, instantly noticed Kakashi's own Sharingan. It made him feel a bit angry, as he had no idea Konoha had a ninja who possessed the eye of his clan, but these thoughts were shelved in favor of getting new techniques. At first, Sasuke would never try to copy the techniques of other Konoha's ninjas, but Anko set him straight quite fast. "Why do you even have those eyes if you don't make full use of them? Stop wasting my time and get such a bullshit concept as stealing is bad out of your head, or I will pluck your eyes out and give them to someone worthy of them," she said. It was one of the very rare times Sasuke saw Anko serious, and he decided listening to her was a good way to keep his eyes in his head. He didn't dare think she wouldn't do it. That was a gamble Sasuke would not participate in, especially since this was Anko and he had no idea what went through the head of that woman. Sasuke instantly noticed their dash wasn't intended to end in a taijutsu exchange. Their muscles were far too relaxed for that. Relaxed muscles meant preparation for evasion, while tensed meant preparation for engaging in taijutsu. At least, that's what Anko taught him. He would have never thought to use Sharingan in this way, to predict what a person would do from the slight shift in his or her muscles. The two ninjas in front of him were about to fight with ninjutsu, and Sasuke couldn't help but be excited and happy from all the jutsu he would witness and copy. Kakashi started with fire release, Phoenix Sage fire technique, blanketing the area in front of the dashing Anko with a volley of small fireballs, making her weave through them while disregarding the heat. Momentarily surprised that his technique didn't even slow his opponent down, Kakashi decided he would have to put more effort into it. Anko was far too proficient in Katon release to be bothered by a slight increase in heat. She weaved through the small fireballs, using them to obstruct Kakashi's line of sight while she weaved hand signs for her own technique. This way, he wouldn't be able to copy it since he would miss quite a bit of hand signs and chakra molding steps. The same went for the duck-haired kid who tried to peek at her and was failing miserably because of the chakra contained in the small fireballs. There would be no copying of her personal techniques. Suddenly, Kakashi noticed Anko's chakra spike, causing his eyes to go wide as she abruptly stopped before taking a deep breath and spitting a purple smoke from her mouth. The smoke twisted at breakneck speed, creating a snake almost as thick as a tree trunk before it sprang in the direction of Kakashi fast enough to give him a pause. "Shit, that's an A-rank technique. Why would she use something like that in a spar?" he thought in panic before jumping back, trying to increase the distance between him and the quickly approaching snake. Kakashi was very experienced and instantly realized the smoke forming the snake is most likely highly poisonous. He had to avoid it at all costs. Anko focused on directing the snake, watching as it engulfed Kakashi's body. Something was off, however. It was far too easy. Her eyes suddenly gleamed before she quickly crouched down, putting her palm on the ground. Earth release, pulse hardening. The ground under her slightly caved as a pulse of chakra was sent through it, compressing the earth enough to crush anyone trying to hide there. Anko watched with a smirk as ruffled Kakashi rose from the ground a few feet away from her, giving her a stink eye for what she had just done. Kakashi couldn't believe it. The crazy bitch almost squashed him like a bug with that earth jutsu. And he was supposed to work with her? To be on the same team? Is it too late to retire and start a career as an Icha actor? Kakashi inwardly mused, while keeping his eyes firmly on the dangerous woman in front of him. When he heard there would be a Chunin as a sort of secondary teacher, he didn't mind. In fact, he was glad for being given a flunky who would do the troublesome parts of being a Jonin sensei for him. Now, though, this is gonna be a long fight, isn't it? He sighed, steeling his resolve while mourning the loss of his time for Icha. Putting his hands into a cross-shaped hand sign, Kakashi called forth 5 shadow clones and had them spread out around the clearing. "Fine, then. I guess I can take you a bit more seriously," he cheerfully quipped. Anko chuckled at the cheap attempt to unnerve her. Unfortunately for Kakashi, she got a bit more snake-like under Tsunade's tutelage. His chirpy facade was fooling no one. She could smell the irritation, worry, and unwillingness from Kakashi. Anko crossed her arms on her chest and relaxed her posture. Heh, in that case, I think you won't need this. The air shimmered around the fingers of her right hand, and Kakashi froze for a second before his hand involuntarily reached into his kunai pouch, only for his eyes to widen in desperation. My Icha limited edition, he whispered in horror as the enemy got hold of the most important hostage present on the field. If only the poor little Genins knew Kakashi's train of thoughts. I give up, Kakashi ground out. He didn't like it. Him giving up meant indirectly admitting she was correct about Minato-sensei, but the stakes were far too high for him to continue. This was a limited edition personally signed by Jiraiya, the only in the world. Anko's eyes mirthfully flashed with mischief as she saw the distress in Kakashi's eyes. She lightly waved the book, looking at it with a lifted eyebrow before giving Kakashi a smug look. I think not, she said, and sparks suddenly went off around her fingers, igniting the book. The world stopped for Kakashi and all of his shadow clones at that moment as they watched his most valuable possession burn while the Icha murderer took pleasure in doing the heinous deed. Robotically turning towards Anko, all cheer was gone from Kakashi's face. I am going to kill you, he menacingly said in a low tone, completely serious. Anko smirked. Too late. 5 Earth clones suddenly sprang up from the ground behind each of the 5 shadow clones of Kakashi, using their momentary distraction to subdue them without popping them. The real Kakashi snorted, palming a kunai as he also expected to be attacked, yet no attack came. So, you got my clones. Big deal. He narrowed his eyes at Anko, lowering his posture. His hands blurred as a lightning edge formed on one of them, while his Sharingan menacingly followed Anko's every movement. He wasn't going to kill her, but damn him if he didn't make her stay in hospital for the foreseeable future. Kakashi was about to dash at Anko with his Raikiri in hand when she spoke. Shadow clones are a very peculiar thing. Did you know the main reason why they are forbidden and why Tobirama Senju added a safeguard that pops them after suffering a hit is because they transfer pain? Anko couldn't contain her wide smile. Let me demonstrate. Kakashi couldn't be bothered to listen to her drivel. He only listened to the first part before disregarding it and rushing at Anko, who just relaxedly stood in her place, not even bothering to assume a defensive stance. When he was halfway through the clearing, Anko's Earth clones simultaneously plunged kunai into the crotches of Kakashi's shadow clones. Kakashi's mind received 5 experiences of castration at the same time, smashing into his mind like a truck. Losing his concentration, his Raikiri faded while he missed a step during his dash, causing his body to lose balance before it was sent rolling on the ground for a few meters because of his momentum. Anko watched in satisfaction as one of the most feared ninjas of Konoha curled into a ball, holding his crotch while whimpering like a kid. I still got it, she snickered before turning towards the 3 pale Genins. Since your Jonin-sensei is, disabled, your true Genin exam will be conducted tomorrow. Be at the 3rd training ground at 10 a.m., prepared to fight for your life. And since I still have a pending conversation with your future team leader, dismissed, Anko announced to the 3 freshly graduated Genins. They were so shaken they didn't even question what she meant by true Genin exam, as they decided a tactical retreat was in order. Watching her 3 cute little Genins run for their lives, Anko turned towards Kakashi, who was still whimpering on the ground and cheerfully crouched near him. Now then, I think it's high time to discuss the rules you will obey as my superior and the leader of Team 7. Don't you think? Naruto, Sasuke, and Hinata arrived at the training ground 3 at 10 minutes before 10 a.m., anxious about this supposed real Genin test. They were not nervous because of the test. Far from it. They were ninjas, and information gathering was a basic skill taught in the academy. They asked around and found out almost nobody fails the test nowadays. That, however, only put more pressure on them. No, They were nervous because of who was going to be testing them. Kakashi Hatake was one of the very few jonins who failed fresh genins since the reforms in the academy took effect. Sure, these genins were simply given a second chance and passed with flying colors because, apparently, Kakashi was a huge dick, but that was not really important. They witnessed the white-haired jonin fight Anko, and the idea of being part of such a fast-paced fight was as scary as it was exciting for the trio. After all, Anko handed their asses to them hands down without even really trying, and Kakashi could go blow for blow against her. Judging by that, their prospects were not the best. Calm down. I don't understand why you are so uptight about it, bastard. Naruto lazily said from his spot under a tree, where he carefreely laid with his hands behind his head, not betraying how nervous he really felt. Why? Maybe because we are going to fight against one of the strongest jonins in Konoha? Unlike you, I did my homework and gathered information about this Hatake Kakashi. He is famed as the Sharingan no Kakashi and is known for copying more than 1,000 ninjutsu. Fighting against him won't be easy, loser. Sasuke grunted, counting his newly purchased exploding tags to pass the long while. But Anko has beaten him so readily? Naruto whined. Sometimes you act so smartly I forget you are actually an idiot. Sasuke wearily sighed. Anko played dirty and dispatched him before he could use his area of expertise, ninjutsu. The man has Sharingan and was a ninjutsu prodigy even before he got that. So we just have to play dirty too. Naruto rolled his eyes. No shit, Sherlock. Hinata muttered under her nose. She was occasionally activating and deactivating her eyes to scan the surroundings. Being surprised by Anko once was enough trauma for one lifetime. As such, she was very aware that Naruto's clones were currently trapping the forest to high heavens and made sure to remember the position of every trap. They were given the advantage of knowing where they would fight, and not using it would be such a waste Anko would no doubt flunk them just because. As if it was that easy. Sasuke snorted. Honestly, he was very interested in Kakashi after finding out the man possessed Sharingan. That desire plummeted when he heard what others had to say about him. Pervert, lazy as fuck, always late. Apparently, he pissed off quite a few people with his bad habits. When Sasuke thought a person like this possessed his clan's fabled dojutsu and was known for using it to great effect, he couldn't help but feel a bit ashamed to share this trait with him. God knows, Anko-sensei would beat the crap out of him if she caught him reading Icha Icha before he became a full-fledged genin. He definitely didn't know that because she once caught him. Nope. The trio quieted down in silent contemplation, all going through the repertoire of techniques they knew while trying to devise a strategy based on what they saw Kakashi being capable of in his fight against Anko. Their information was severely limited, but it was still better than going in completely blind. When the clock hit 10 a.m., Kakashi finally arrived, boredly hunching down while trying to keep as far away as possible from the excitable and sadistic Kunoichi, who followed him to make sure he wouldn't be late. Kakashi didn't like being on this team, at all. Especially so after the 3 hours he spent in hospital yesterday while his mind tried to reboot from all the pain Anko put him through. Unfortunately for him, he was under the threat of having his eggs scrambled, and Kakashi quickly learned to take Anko's threats quite seriously, so he had to listen to the ridiculous rules Anko gave him. 1. No pissing people off by being lazy and arriving in every meeting 3 hours late. 2. No pissing on people. 3. No pissing Anko off, as that makes her cranky, and cranky Anko is stabby Anko. Consider yourself warned. 4. No imagining humping Anko's leg because she forbade you to read Icha Icha during work, you pervert. 5. No beating your genin up to relieve your frustration. In this team, only Anko-chan can bully others. 6. No playing fetch with pointy sharp metal with your genins. Use blunted ones. They hurt longer. 7. No teamwork crap until the team members are individually competent enough to actually make working together worth it. Anko called these things the 7 commandments of utterly amazing Anko-chan, and Kakashi wasn't sure if some of them didn't come from a book about training pets. Yo! Kakashi lazily waved at his 3 new genins, but his voice didn't contain the usual cheer. Instead, it sounded quite dejected. He then pulled out a clock from his pocket and set it up on a nearby stump. So, well, I wanted to give you a teamwork test, but it was pointed to me. He shivered as he remembered Anko's kunai approaching his ass while he was paralyzed from all the pain coming from his crotch. That 3 genins put together on a team are not supposed to have a passable teamwork, and it is my duty as your Jonin sensei to teach you how to work together rather than expect it from you right off the bat. Kakashi had no idea why he was explaining himself, but damn if it didn't feel good to complain in this roundabout way about the brutal team leader abuse going on in his team. Instead, you 3 will try to subdue me within the next 2 hours. Cue the 3 groans that lifted Kakashi's mood. So I can get a decent image of your current skill set. Don't worry, and he eye-smiled before setting the alarm to go off in 2 hours. Come at me with the intent to kill. The second he finished saying that, the ground under him suddenly exploded as 3 exploding tags went off right underneath him, sending rocks, dirt, and dust into the air. Sasuke and Naruto glanced at Hinata, who gently shook her head, gesturing with her head at a tree to their left where Kakashi was currently half-heartedly hiding by leaning on the tree trunk with his back while reading Icha Icha. Fortunately, Anko allowed him to read it during this occasion, as it would be a good motivation for the genins. Kakashi yet again wondered why did he agree to Anko's ridiculous rules, and why did he need permission from the younger woman to read his porn. Nice plan, you 3, he half-heartedly praised. You definitely deserve a point for eagerness and being murder-happy. Contrary to Kakashi's expectations, the 3 genins didn't react to his remark and just spread out, watching him with cute, determined looks as if they had a chance. Let's get this over with. Might as well use this opportunity to show the Uchiha some jutsu while teaching him humility, teach the Hyuga her clan's fighting style is not God's gift, and make sure Naruto would never dream of pranking me out of fear of retaliation. He thought with a sigh. This was going to be a nice leisure 2 hours of fun. Unknown to Kakashi, Anko watched in anticipation from her hiding spot. Yes, the 3 genins were anxious and careful, but she didn't train the 3 of them to be Kakashi's personal punching bag. If he thought this was going to be easy, he had another thing coming. I wonder if Hinata will make good use of my advice about how to subdue men. Anko giggled, imagining the vast possibilities of Gentle Fist.